I'm Matt Delano. I'm the field operations manager here in our U.S. office for senseFly Inc. And following up with the introduction, we're going to kick things off with the 14 CFR, that's Code of Federal Regulations, Part 107, which came down the pipe in August of last year and has been the driving regulatory framework for SUAS operations in the national airspace here in the U.S. There we go. Okay. So going over the process, what do we need to do from start to finish, basically, to become a certified UAS operator and do so legally and safely? First of all is going to be studying. The vast majority of people, I think, based off of statistics that are operating UAS for commercial purposes in the United States currently are not experienced aviators. You're looking mostly for, commercial applications for companies such as mining, agriculture, things of that nature that are integrating these systems into their existing workflows to collect data. So some of them, the larger energy companies, have aviation wings currently within their companies, and a lot of them are turning internally to those aviation wings units, whatever you want to call them, to figure out a way to adopt drone technologies so that they can cut costs, cut time. Basically, the reason we're here and the reason that UAS are exploding. So we want to study. You're going to need to schedule an appointment with a knowledge testing center, and we'll go over some links here in a little bit. There's a PDF for the knowledge testing centers available at faa.gov, which I would recommend as your primary knowledge resource for anything having to do with SUAS and regulatory affairs. Or you can go through the CATS website. You'll then need to pass the initial aeronautical knowledge test, and once you've done that, there are certain steps in the process that are fairly seamless and painless to follow on with setting up an IACRA account if you don't already have one, and completing FAA Form 8710-13 for a remote pilot certificate. Primarily, the route that you're going to want to take is electronically through IACRA. That's the easiest, but there's also an option to go the paper route for those who wish to do so. Here are some of the links for the study materials. You've got your FAA recommended study materials, and then I listed a couple of examples of other resources that have pretty decent knowledge-based selections and documents to go off of. Okay, so registering for the exam, just a quick visual of what was just covered. You've got your two methods for obtaining a remote pilot certificate with SUAS rating, and you basically have two main groups for commercially operating. You've got your current pilots with their Part 61 with current flight review, and then you've got your new pilots. Current pilots actually have a little bit different route to take that's a little bit easier than it is for new pilots, but essentially they're the same steps, and essentially it's pretty close to the same test. They are just, it's a little bit streamlined for current aviators who have a Part 61 and current flight review just because of their background and experience, and it's pretty much expected that they're already going to have an in-depth knowledge of reading aeronautical charts and things of that nature, and airspace knowledge, things of that. So there are two options, as you can see, are going to be going to the FAAsafety.org website and taking ALC 451 course. And that's basically it serves two functions. It's the certification process technically for current pilots, and it's also available as a practice exam for new pilots. And it's a wonderful resource. It's a great tool, and you can actually print out and show proof that you're doing your due diligence, you're practicing properly and everything, and you're taking the study and knowledge seriously. They can also do the registering for the exam through the CATS website, but when you go that route, it's going to be a $150 fee. So I can't imagine too many current pilots would opt for that unless for some reason circumstances dictated. For new pilots, recommended, like I said, as the ALC 451 course as kind of a base study guide. And then they'll have to register for the exam through the CATS website, but you can see that all paths diverge or converge on IACRA, and we'll get to that here pretty quickly. Okay, so the CATS testing facility. First stop would be their website, catstest.com, drone knowledge test. This is kind of an overview of what it looks like. Here in the background is the home page. You'll notice locate a testing center, and you'll notice that this is a specific section dedicated to UAS. and drones. So you'll click on Locate a Testing Center, and then you'll get a pop-up, and you have two options here. You can either type in your address, distance, and select Airman Knowledge Test and locate a test center that way, or you can select by state. Okay, so for the FAA safety.gov portion, for the ALC 451, Part 107 Small Unmanned Aircraft Systems test. This, once again, is a good practice test for beginners, and it's the actual certification, first step in the certification process for Part 61 holders. So this in the background is the home site, and the first thing you're going to want to do is create an account, obviously. Once you've done that, once you're registered and in the system, you can click over here on Part 107 Small Unmanned Aircraft Systems, and that will direct you to the course overview. Once you get to the course overview, it's just a matter of enrolling in the course. This gives a brief description, and then once you click enroll in the course, that's when it details the outline. You can review the material ahead of time. It gives you some of the same knowledge links and PDFs and everything that are available on the regular FAA.gov website for UAS. And it just kind of builds and expounds upon that, and then you can kick off the test. And once complete, you'll have actually, through the FAA safety, through the FAST team, you'll have credit, and it'll be registered and logged as an educational credit to the FAA. So it's beneficial all the way around, even if you don't have your Part 61, you're a new pilot, and you're just doing it for practice. All right, IACRA, the Integrated Airman Certification and Rating Application. Got the link here at the top. So once you've taken and passed your 107 exam, you should receive a set of instructions from the testing facility detailing the required steps necessary to complete the process. So what's going to happen is you'll get basically a piece of paper detailing your score and your test number and everything else as you leave, and they should hand you a form or send an email that kind of outlines the instructions for follow-on. It's going to take 24 to 48 hours for your test results to actually register in their system, so just be aware of that. That should be included in their set of instructions. They should be diligent and fill you in on the entire process in detail. That's when you will need to create an account in the IACRA system and submit your application to receive your certification like we covered in the previous slide. So once you go to that homepage, you're going to start the application. There's a quick link in the applicant's options window. It's on the left side of the page, and you'll just click Start New Application. So once you've done that, when you're prompted, you're going to enter your test ID, and the system will automatically retrieve your information. And that's if you try to do it too soon, or the system's lagging, and you're within that 24 to 48 hour time period, you may notice that your test doesn't pop up, and it'll give you a warning. It's not saying that that your test has been booted from the system. It's basically saying that it hasn't been fully processed and they can't retrieve that information yet. So once you've completed that application and it's been processed, you're going to receive your temporary certificate in PDF form on the IACRA site. You'll get an email after your TSA background check is complete, which is required for all of these applications. You'll get an email saying that your temporary certificate is ready to go, and at that point you can just log in, and I'll show you a screenshot here in a second of what it's going to look like, and it's available to download as PDF. You can print that out, and it serves as your certificate, and it's perfectly legal until you actually receive your permanent one in the mail. If there are any issues, the website details troubleshooting instructions and provides contact info for who to reach out to. So there's no worries if you have any problems, and you can always reach out to the testing facility as well, and they can direct you to the right personnel as well, or help you with your problem. Okay, so here's the home site. This is what I was talking about before. Once you've logged in, you've got your user information, and then you're going to click Start New Application, and then this is what will pop up. So from here, for application type, you're going to basically choose Pilot. There are several options. The other ones escape my mind at this point, but you will want to select Pilot. And then from there, the steps fill in as you go and as you complete the information. So once you're done, once everything's processed and in the system, this is what you're going to see for your console at this point. You're going to see your certificate type. It's going to give you your start date, your status date, when it actually kicks off, and your type again, when it was issued, and then So status is where if you try to log in too soon initially to process, it will say cannot find test results or something of that nature. Don't worry, if it's within the 24 to 48-hour time period, the system's just lagging a little bit. Your status will eventually, when you log in, pop up. For available actions, this is where you're going to go to download your temporary certificate, and there are also other options that are available, and it doesn't go away. So continually, while you are certified, this will be your status, and this will be your go-to for if you need to print anything out or look for new information. All right, and this is what the certificate looks like. Just throwing a quick image in there. It's a pretty legitimate looking card. There's no photograph on there, so it's not I guess a complete ID. But now that you've registered and you have your remote pilot certificate, this is what it's going to look like. It's very important to keep this on you at all times, as common sense dictates, as well as proof of registration documentation for the aircraft anytime you're operating your system. It needs to be, per the FAA, it needs to be readily accessible, easily accessible by the remote pilot during all SUAS operations. And it's valid for 2 years from basically the date that it showed you were officially registered. And after those 2 years are up, or actually probably a little bit before, just so that you don't lapse in your certification, you need to pass a recurrent knowledge test. And just to cover NOTAMs really quickly, a little bit of a jump in subject there. Filing a NOTAM for commercial operations under Part 107 is not required. That's a pretty key concept. If you've applied for waivers for specific parts of 107 and they've been granted through the FAA, it'll state specifically in the terms of your waiver whether or not you are actually required to file NOTAMs. So that at that point, that's when you need to really pay attention to filing. However, it is beneficial and good safety practice to monitor NOTAMs and TFRs, temporary flight restrictions, in the areas that you're going to be operating. So a couple of different ways you can do this. You can contact airports in the vicinity directly and request the information. And if you're operating in the vicinity of certain airports, it's a good idea probably to establish some sort of rapport with either the manager of the airport, if it's an uncontrolled tower, and any regular operators out of there, or with the tower itself. You can check online by going to tfr.faa.gov, and there's a list of TFRs, and there's a similar website, notams.aim.faa.gov, and you can do that as well. And I'll open up my browser really quickly, and we'll show you a couple of examples of these. Okay, so here's the TFR list. You can get your TFR help. You can check out your special use airspace. You can do airport maps. You can do a TFR map, or you can go by list. All right, and for the NOTAMs, this is kind of your base of operation here. You got your pilotweb.nas.faa.gov. Anything you really need to do here for NOTAMs, you can do. You can go to the search here, and from there you can basically, as long as you have internet connectivity, you can go by location, and or you can type in location, and it will list all of the NOTAMs and everything that are in your immediate area in the airspace that you're going to be operating in. All right, a couple of slides of a few resources here, and I'll kind of pause on this so that when anybody's referencing the recording later on, they can check them out. Google's a great tool, obviously, to just type something in as a general search, and a lot of these will pop up, especially the FAA sites. And for study material resources, the FAA is an excellent place to start, and it's even an excellent place to finish, depending on how much time you have to dedicate to and how you feel the resources meet your needs. There are a couple that I mentioned earlier, Skyward and J. Rupick Law, that have great study test guides for free and great resources. Both of them, a lot points back to the FAA.gov site. FAA has done a good job of setting that up.